Hello, everybody. It is Thursday, December the 21st, 2017, and you have reached the No Name Cinema Society. This is the 45th meeting of the No Name Cinema Society, and we've got a good series of episodes here. We got 4 episodes as a part of our 45th meeting, including a big one. We're about to do our current feature discussion. It's our annual discussion of a Star Wars movie. We've got Episode 8, The Last Jedi, up for discussion tonight. And hello, everybody. My name is Jonathan Betzler. Welcome. And as you can see, as promised, I'm back here in Astoria, in New York. I'm here now, and I fly back to LA on the day after Christmas, and then I come back here in the beginning of January, back to LA, back to New York, back to LA. I'm all over the place. Try and stay with me, everybody. Anyway. So I've got some intros. I'm going to introduce my fellow podcast mates here, my co-hosts, if you will. First, my film Padawan. Ladies and gentlemen, Davie Joe is back with us.
How's it going?
This is a momentous show for us because The Last Jedi was the first movie we ever saw together in the movie theater. Those of you at home may have seen our vlog that we did it, but we went together.
I was disappointed that you wouldn't hold my hand, but whatever.
Well, we met some people too. That was kind of fun. That we made new friends. So that's what happens when you stand in line for 3 hours in the cold. Anyway,
That's right.
And I'm very excited because we have over the last couple months, you've noticed that we've expanded the society beyond just me, J Money, and Davie. And I've got the newest member of the No Name Cinema Society to introduce you tonight. The force is strong with this one. Ladies and gentlemen, Patrick Taylor, live from Los Angeles.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Patrick Taylor is a director, he's an editor, and perhaps most interestingly, an award-winning composer, most notably composing for the indie film Fishing Without Nets, which won a Best Director at Sundance. What was it, 2015, Patrick?
2014, and then 2012 as a short.
That'll be an interesting perspective. We only talk about music in a cursory manner, wouldn't you say, Davie?
Yeah, generally speaking.
We sort of agree that it's not really important to a movie.
Well, judging from this Star Wars, perhaps not, but we'll get into that, I guess.
Here we go. All right, so this is a segment. Now, ever since we lost J Money from the show, or lost J Money from the show, I've had to drink alone on the show. So I'm going to open up. I've got a festive here. I got my Star Wars Christmas shirt, and I've got a festive Christmas beer, White Christmas Sam Adams beer. But so the big question is, Patrick, are you drinking with me tonight?
I cannot allow you to drink alone. I have some Belvini, if I'm pronouncing that right, double wood whiskey, delicious.
Damn.
Got it from a holiday party.
You're going all out.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
I did. It's funny that you have a little whiskey because I was thinking of drinking this tonight. But the fact of the matter is it doesn't belong to me. I was thinking of drinking it and replacing it, but I'm like, that's too lazy to do that. I'll just drink the beer. See that, Davie? He refuses to let me drink alone. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I have known him for about 2 minutes, but I already know that he's, he likes you more than I do.
That's a low bar.
No comment.
I will say, Patrick, just so you know, his nickname on the show is Drunk Davie, because he did do a show where he was really drunk in episode 9, and that's where he earned the nickname.
Really drunk?
Well, you can look back on that show and you find out. All right, guys, so this is our schedule of our 45th set of episodes, starting tonight, of course, December the 21st, with our discussion of The Last Jedi. The day after Christmas, we have our Indie Spotlight, continuing with our Spotlight of Indies from 2012, How to Survive a Plague, the documentary from 2012. And that's Tuesday. A week from tonight, December the 28th, we have another Last movie, The Last Emperor, the Best Picture winner from 1987, celebrating its 30-year anniversary. That is our classic upcoming next week. And of course, our Sound Off is coming on Tuesday, January 2nd, our first show in the calendar year 2018, although still part of our third season of episodes. We're going to play a game. I'm going to have an obscure movie discovery, sort of a leftover from our 1966 in review show. And Davie has tasked me with counting down the top 5 Star Wars performances of all time coming up on January 2nd. All right, guys, it's time for This Day in History before we get to the movie. You guys ready? December 21st history?
Oh, yeah. Pumped.
When Davie says he's pumped, he's not, but might be interesting to know that on this day, December the 21st in 1891, the first game of basketball was ever played. 18 students in Springfield, Massachusetts, which, by the way, is where the Hall of Fame is. 18 students in Springfield, Massachusetts played the game based on rules created by, of course, Dr. James Naismith. On this day, December 21st in 1937, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs was released. Walt Disney's first animated feature film. Even though it was released so long ago, a lot of us grew up with it. On a less fun note, on December 21st, in this day in history, in 1988, was something that's known as the Lockerbie disaster. Pan Am Flight 103 was destroyed by a terrorist bomb over Scotland. All 258 passengers perished in the flight. And birthdays today. Today is the 80th, count it, 80th birthday of Jane Fonda, a controversial actress and activist, Hollywood royalty, of course. She's a 2-time Oscar winner in films like Clute from 1971 and Coming Home in 1978, winning Best Actress both times. She was also in 2 of our films from 1966, neither of which got on the show, but she was in the film Any Wednesday and The Chase. Interesting thing about Any Wednesday, Davie, is it's based on a Broadway play, and the person who originated the role on Broadway was someone that also came up a lot in our 1966 show, even in a movie that you saw. Do you want to guess who originated that role in Any Wednesday? No, you don't want to try? Sandy Dennis from Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. She would win an Oscar in 1966.
You're on the tip of my tongue, man.
But I don't normally throw 1966 trivia questions at you, but since that was one of the 5 movies you watched from 1966, I thought you might. Anything on that day in history? Any of those little tidbits interest you guys?
Just because you brought it up, and I honestly, I had no idea you were going to. There were 35 Syracuse University students on that plane. There's a memorial in front of the Hall of Language at Syracuse University. It's something that all alumni are familiar with, unfortunately.
Both Davie and J Money are alums of Syracuse. So you guys have that every year?
Yeah, it gets remembered every year.
Wow. So guys, it's time to talk about The Last Jedi. I'm going to start out with a very brief summary. You guys ready for summary?
Yeah, man. Do it.
Please tell us what happened in this movie. Please.
Well, it's not just for you. It's not just for you, Patrick. It's also for the audience, so they get a little sense of what we're going to be talking about here. So here's the summary. Rey seeks out Jedi training from the reclusive Luke Skywalker, while her friends in the Resistance try to outrun the Empire long enough to find a new rebel base. That's all I got summary-wise. They're usually a lot longer. What do you guys think about that summary? It's brief. It pretty much sums it up.
I wish I had read that summary before I went into the movie. Because there was a point to which I was in.
Patrick really wants to talk about this movie.
Oh, man.
He's jumping the gun.
Oh, man. I was like, what's going on? But that's
anyway,
pretty much representative of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I will call on you, I promise. So this is our opening thought section. This is our opening thought section. And basically, it's like one sentence that describes how you feel the movie. Davie will show you how it's done. But in fairness, in the past, Davie has said he cannot see these movies objectively. We'll see how he feels about this one. Davie, opening thoughts, The Last Jedi.
I think this it pulls off an amazing feat of making it so good it makes the one before it even better.
Okay, and so on the Davie scale, it'd be a good movie then, right?
Yeah.
So Patrick, yourself, opening thought.
I'm not into the series as much as I probably should be, and I thought I could just sit there and enjoy it, but I was confused as to where it was all going, and while I was watching it, I felt like the action was amazing, but then I was like, I don't know if it made me want to care about what was happening. Why did we need a Last Jedi? Why were they going after Luke Skywalker so severely? How did they know? I don't know. I just didn't. It felt like the plot didn't really move for me.
So we're gonna have to like rethink this idea of one sentence, or maybe.
Okay. So ask me one more time. Ask me one more time.
No, we don't have to do it again. We don't have to do it again.
One more time.
I like to tease the new people when they fail to grasp the concept of opening thoughts, but next time, because I hope to have you back, Patrick. Next time, you'll know it's a sentence.
Right. It's hard. It's hard to put that in one sentence.
It is. Davey's the best at it for sure, because he's generally like monosyllabic. As far as my opening thought, I can tell you, if you watched our episode on The Force Awakens, you may as well rewatch that, because I'm basically going to say the same things. Some great moments, but mostly formulaic and trite. I kind of hate both of these movies. And so Davey and I are going to really get into it. And for me, I'm going to start with, and this is where we start having the actual discussion, Patrick. I'm going to start with the plot and story, because that is really the main issue. Is the craft elements are all strong, and we can talk about that, but I just really need to unpack the plot and the story, and mainly the disingenuousness overall. Plot point after plot point bumped for me. You know, smaller examples would be like the Codebreaker. That's felt really forced. That whole plot line felt like they really needed to extend the movie while Rey goes on her journey. Like, I did not understand why it was necessary. It felt like a screenwriter adding that little element. Also, the timeline in general. I feel like days seem to pass for Rey while hours are going on while the Resistance is battling in space. Like, they were juxtaposed and cross-cutting between these things, but I mean, like, day after day after day seems to pass for Rey, while in space they're running out of hours. It's so strange. And also, nothing that happens with Kylo Ren computes at all. His flip-flopping and whining I find completely grating. I believe nothing that happens with him. It's also a performance issue. Maybe we'll get to that. Those are a couple of my complaints, my more specific complaints. My overall complaint is disingenuousness. I just don't understand or believe much that happens with this movie. Patrick, I'm going to let you go first, since I think you're somewhat in agreement, and then we'll see what Davey has to rebuttal us with.
I agree with a lot of what you said. I like a film that I can watch and it leads me on a journey with a character, or it kind of, as it's cutting back and forth, you feel like it's going to come together. You know, the story is pulling each other pulling itself towards each other. Like this story, it just felt like I was watching it and I didn't feel a connection with either storyline, but I liked the Last Jedi thing, but I was like, what's happening there? I don't know. I just didn't necessarily feel a connection with the story. And the guy sitting next to me kept asking me, "Do you know what's going on?" And I'm like, so I swear I'm just telling you the honest truth of what I heard from the people I watched it with, and we didn't really.
Okay, it was someone you knew. It wasn't a random stranger.
It wasn't a random stranger. It was my boy. He was like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know."
I feel like I understood a lot. I just didn't believe it. I didn't buy it. Nothing rang true, and I could feel the screenwriter's hands shifting things to accomplish certain goals, like the product placement. I can feel the screenwriter forcing these elements in. Davey, defend this movie.
All right, let me start with our one point of agreement, and then I'll go point by point and refute everything that you said. You're right about the continuity. The timeline was messed up.
Davey, can I just interrupt you to let you know that we just got a message from the people that we met at the movie theater. They just sent me a Facebook message.
Are they watching?
They're watching now, so that's kind of exciting. And
wow.
They said say hi to Davey. Jen says hi as well, is what they say.
Well, hi.
That was happening at the moment, so I felt like I needed to interrupt you.
Our point of agreement is done. That's it.
Before you go on to refute me, that's a huge thing.
No, I don't think it is a huge.
To not have your timeline match? That's screenwriting 101. Patrick, tell them, like, that's basic storytelling.
Truth.
They're separate stories.
They're not suggesting that they're happening at different times. The cross-cutting is very clearly insinuating that these are happening parallelly.
I do disagree with that. I don't understand necessarily why they did it that way. You can tell the passage of time. I don't think that it necessarily meant that they were happening contemporaneously.
This is an example of Davey giving Star Wars a pass, where any other movie, he would be all over this.
Was the movie, the McConaughey movie, where they jump back and forth in time, and I was the one that didn't bother me, and it bothered you?
Are you talking about Free State of Jones?
Yes. I mean, I'm not saying it was a good movie, but I'm just saying that
at least I'm consistent with the things that bother me. Go ahead, David.
Codebreaker, that whole sequence is one of my favorite things about this movie.
That's not the point. I liked elements of it, and I liked Benicio del Toro very much, which I was going to get to. The whole sidetrack did not make sense from a plot point of view.
It absolutely did. It absolutely did make sense from a point of view. a plot point of view. The whole, first of all, it's a red herring. At the point of that doesn't become clear until the end of the movie. When you finally understand what they were trying to accomplish by that whole thing. Basically, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make you think that it's like the last movie. It's essentially a rehash of the first set of movies. So you think it's a side mission, just like the Ewoks, just like Endor, to lower the shields. But it wasn't. It was to introduce a new character who's going to be pivotal down the road.
That's still like a screenwriter manipulating the plot to accomplish something else. It is not organic. The first films felt organic. This does not.
At some point, you have to understand that these movies fit into a context.
This is a screenwriter saying, we need to introduce this character that's going to be important down the road. Let's make them need a code breaker for this thing.
There's action for a purpose. It's to introduce a character. It's,
your goal as a screenwriter is to do these things in a way that feels natural. You do not want your audience to feel like they sense the screenwriter's hand manipulating things. That's
how real life works. Like, there's something that happens, and the result isn't necessarily predictable. And that's what I liked about it, is that it was at the end you're like, oh wow, this is what we're getting out of this.
I mean,
it was a misdirection, and I appreciate it.
But it's a misdirection that was calculated from a screenwriter point of view. It was not something that felt natural in the flow of the film.
You want the screenwriter to randomly come up with ideas? Yeah, of course it's calculated.
No, I want them to come naturally. Listen, this is how screenwriting actually should work, is it comes naturally from the flow of the piece. And if you're trying to connect two things, you better damn well do it in a way that feels organic. Patrick, help me out here.
Well, I can't really help you out. That whole side story was kind of a way to make the characters of Finn and his new love interest have some type of a connection for that end. They're really trying not to make a love thing out of the two main characters. So Finn now has to love someone else, I guess. But that would be the only reason I could think that why they would go onto this side adventure that was completely fruitless.
But again, that is not something that's happening within the world. There are reasons for doing it that you're specifying are a screenwriter who's outside the world manipulating events. So very quickly, because we spent a lot of time on this, defend Kylo Ren and everything he does, which is stupid.
Oh my God. All right. I mean, first of all, the Kylo Ren was much better this time around than last time, and I like the fact that he's self-interested. He says, "Look, I'm in this for me. I'm trying to, it's a different angle. It's a new villain, and it brings a certain freshness to the series that I think we needed.
The whiny bitch, and I'd like to slap him upside his head.
He's a classic movie heel. I think it really worked.
I can't believe that you're saying these things.
You dislike him on a number of different levels. He's evil. He's annoying.
On that we agree.
Yeah, but that's calculated. That was part of the writing. I think it works really well.
For what it's worth, Patrick, I just want you to know that normally I'm the one defending almost every movie, and Davie hates so much.
I've liked more movies on this show than you have.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Not lately, but since it started, it's not even close.
Patrick, anything on Kylo Ren?
He didn't annoy me as much as he did in the last movie. I think my biggest problem is, how can Rey fight this Kylo Ren? Who trained Rey? That's my biggest problem. But
that's a bump too. I thought about that. That was a smaller bump for me because I gave it the benefit of the doubt of
he fought those warriors who was right next to the main guy.
Yeah, it's weird how good she is so quickly.
And she went to him to be trained as a Jedi. She's obviously one of the baddest Jedis in the world because she's fighting five guys.
You're right. That's another point of disingenuousness that I just felt like I ran out of room. There's so much.
She fought a rock, and now she's a Jedi warrior with a sword, and she can, defeat obvious trained killers.
The ending really bothered me, and that felt forced. And I want to give I'm talking about the very ending. Felt like this pre-planned idea that just did not happen naturally. There's ways it could have been done naturally, and I don't want to give it away. And overall, I said that episodes 4 through 6 worked because the developments felt organic and natural within the very detailed world that Lucas created. Recycling those same plot points with different details is a forced concept, and they keep doing it. It's a common issue, but unforgivable nonetheless when a movie is made from the outside in as opposed to the inside out. The characters and world should dictate the plot, not fan chatter on Reddit. The prequels suffered because of bad acting and wooden dialogue, which isn't the issue here. But the basic storylines, and when I say storylines, I'm talking about the things that happen, not necessarily how they happen. The storylines in the prequels were better. I'm saying it right now. It was poorly executed, I'll give you that. But the turning of Darth Vader and the rising of the Empire and the Sith Lords becoming this sort of rebel group that rises, that could have been interesting. That's what the big upsetting thing about the prequels is it could have been good. It had the potential to be really interesting. They failed, but I'm telling you, the plots are stronger than this mess. These movies, I hate them. I really hate them.
I hate the prequels, everything about them.
So again, I feel like you're not seeing it clearly, because if you just read the scripts for the prequels and didn't have a voice to put to Jar Jar Binks, and there was no Hayden Christensen to ruin Anakin Skywalker, and maybe the dialogue was a little stronger, like, I think you'd be riveted by these.
There would still be midi-chlorians.
The other thing that these movies failed on, that Rogue One was strong at, is this series has had an opportunity to have some depth, using this platform to make a statement or suggestions or parallels with the modern world. I mean, Rogue One did a good job of being consistent to the Star Wars world we knew, but also suggesting parallels with our current political climate. These sequels, 7, 8, I feel like a much better starting point would have been a healthy republic led by Leia or whoever, and seeing the rise of what was initially a small group of dissatisfied constituents that start to rise up and protest for the things that they want, changes they want made. Some powerful or rich people, like a Snoke, for example, latch on to their needs and their hunger for power and become their leader, making them dangerous. In other words, the rebels are insurgents, and obviously Snoke is Trump in this metaphor, but the rebels are the insurgents. The insurgents are the bad guys in this scenario. That could have been fascinating, I think, and a much better, much more interesting Star Wars for the modern times. Also, I would have been fine if they just remade those Timothy Zahn books, which Lucas was approved of almost immediately after Return of the Jedi. Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, The Last Command, its own separate trilogy. They would have been great too. I don't know if anybody's read those books.
No.
Hi, bro. They're good. They're not as good as these, but they're good.
We're never going to see eye to eye on these.
I always hate when people try to put too much weight on a movie and say now it has to be a social commentary. Like, literally, I left the movie and these kids were like, "That is the best Star Wars movie I have ever seen." They said that to their dad as they're walking out. I'm listening to these kids. Okay, there's a whole new generation that doesn't give a rat's ass about Trump.
It wouldn't be obvious to a lot of people, but it'd be under the surface.
Yeah, it'd be under the surface. This is the little guy fighting against the big guy, but it's not the little guy fighting against the idiot. You know, it's a little bit of a different story. Maybe it was better when we had Dick Cheney in office to make that story happen. But we don't have that power structure.
That's one of the things I liked about Revenge of the Sith, is it did feel like it was paralleling the Bush administration to some degree. I should have had a section for music. I didn't even think about it, because I was fine with the music, except that it's just the recycled stuff.
It's the recycled stuff.
It's so recycled, I didn't think too much about it.
It's so recycled that I was like, Jesus, how boring was it to score this movie? You know?
Well, I mean, but at the same time, I would argue that, I mean, like, to some degree, you want that. Like, when you go to see a James Bond film, you want them to have the timely placement of the theme, you know?
But James Bond is a beautiful example of how you take the theme and you keep the theme, but you modernize it or you harken back. This was just what it was, you know, back in the original set of 3. It just didn't feel like they added anything to the equation. And then some of it also felt misplaced. And it was like, let's just throw in this old theme. But it's like a deep scene, but it's like the love theme underneath there. But I felt like some of it wasn't.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because I own the soundtrack, and it was a moment between Luke and Leia, and it sounded like a love theme because the name of the track is Luke and Leia.
Yeah.
And because the red herring of the episodes 4 through 6 is, you know, before they knew they were brother and sister, were they going to fall in love instead of Han and whatever? So they had their own little piece of music, and they replayed that during a moment that they had. It felt like a love theme, but it's really like their theme. I know exactly what you mean, and it felt awkward if you didn't know that was their theme.
Obviously, they have diehard fans that they have to cater to, but, you know, they also have little kids that are watching this. So, you know, and me, who's not really an enthusiast, but knows the themes because I'm an American, you know. But, you know, I felt like I wanted to hear something that was in that same vein, but new. And I didn't hear anything that was like, okay, they're going to build on something, on a new musical direction that kept with this big orchestral style, and that's what I kind of.
I mean, like quite frankly, I think the prequels did a really good job with that. John Williams' work on the prequels did a really good job of mixing old and new. No, like from a score point of view, I hate the Phantom Menace more than I hate these movies, and I hate these movies pretty much. But the Phantom Menace has a really good score. They have some great stuff with choral stuff going on in that score.
Oh yeah, you're right. You are right about that. The choral stuff is good.
Look at that, you guys agree on something.
It's funny, I don't have notes about score, but I do have some notes about sound. But before I get to that, anything on score, Davie?
Oh yeah, I just want to make the counterpoint. I don't want to cater to the new people. This is Star Wars, and new people can get their own thing. And I get it. I get the point.
They have their own thing. It's called the Marvel MCU.
Well, that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there are people that criticize those movies because there's a lot of pieces of those movies that are only relevant to other movies, and that's what the whole concept of a comic book universe is. Star Wars is very much along those lines. So what you say is an inorganic tangent is what I like. It's the thing that makes me interested in the series as a whole.
I mean, I don't think you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking that it doesn't feel real. Like, it doesn't feel like it would happen. It feels like, you know what I mean by forced.
No, I do know what you mean by force, but I also understand that that's life. That, like, when things happen, there are
the whole point is it does not feel like life.
There are consequences that are not necessarily predictable.
I don't want it to be predictable. When something happens that surprises me, like, I want to be surprised, but I want it to be plausible.
You don't think that's plausible?
No, not at all. Very little that I find plausible.
Humbly, you're wrong.
I do want to say about the sound, speaking of disingenuous, I felt like it was disingenuously loud at times, but one of the best moments in the whole movie that Patrick and I would call in the clear, or to you laymen, silent. It was a great directorial choice to make something happen in a moment of utter silence. That was probably potentially the best moment in the movie. Davie looks like he doesn't know what I'm talking about. Well, there's only one moment that is notably silent, and that is the moment I'm talking about. But the rest of the movie, it was loud for loud's sake. The performances I put into three categories: the good, the fine, and the ugly. And by ugly, I don't mean by the way they looked. I mean like how bad they actually are. The good, I thought Benicio del Toro and Oscar Isaac were really good. Oscar Isaac, of course, the new poster boy for our show, because now that we've done this show, we've done more movies with Oscar Isaac than any other actor. So that's kind of exciting. He was pretty good and believable and interesting. Everyone else is fine, just fine. Adam Driver, really, really bad. And John Boyega is, I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. I liked him in Force Awakens fine, but here, it's like he's trying to force charisma somehow. It's very strange. I think he's very off. Anything on performances before we wrap things up, Patrick?
The lady in purple.
Laura Dern.
Yeah, I didn't believe that she was the leader.
I don't blame her. I think she's a two-dimensional character is written, and hence she's a problem. And the things that happen as related to her, like, it's weird that she let certain things happen without revealing stuff. And that's a sort of like rope-a-dope that is only plausible to a screenplay. From a logical point of view, in a real-life situation, Davie, they would never keep that so much under the hood. That was really dumb and unnecessary and caused a lot of friction. Again, almost as if they're trying to extend the movie. It was weird.
No. They were being tracked. They didn't understand why they were being tracked. Why would you?
Bugged?
No, I'm not talking about that.
Why didn't she communicate with the crew?
There's certain things she didn't reveal to her crew that she could have. And
no.
Yes, she could.
Was there a spy?
Well, they don't know. They don't know how they're getting tracked.
That's the whole reason that they went on the other ship, because they have a tracker.
That was she didn't even know they were doing that.
We're talking in circles because and it's impossible to talk about further without.
Yeah, well, that's why we're being so vague. We don't even know what each other's talking.
All right, another character were the little birds. I was like, okay, Disney, you're just trying to sell little kids all these little toys for the holidays, just in time for Christmas.
Mission accomplished, though, I think. So, Patrick, thank you this is your first time with us. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
And our next current feature is going to be on Friday, January 5th. And so just a little over 2 weeks from now in the new year, it'll be our last set of episodes for our third season, and we're still going to be doing a 2017 film, even though it's 2018. And we're going to do Steven Spielberg's film, The Post. Second time we do a Steven Spielberg film, and that'll be Friday, January 5th. Next up, however, in just 5 days, the day after Christmas, Tuesday, December 26th, our Indie Spotlight, How to Survive a Plague, a documentary from 2012. And that will be our Indie Spotlight, and that's coming up this Tuesday. All right, guys, you have closing thoughts you want to say? Davey, I'll let you go first. Anything you want to say to the audience or about Last Jedi?
I mean, I love you, but you're just wrong.
He loves me, guys. He loves me. He loves me not. Patrick, are you going to come back on the show with us in 2018?
I want to say this is an honor, and any excuse to watch films and talk trash or praise about them is fun with me.
And so that's Davey and Patrick, and I'm JB. And ladies and gentlemen, this meeting of the No Name Cinema Society is adjourned.